Hello, friends, and welcome back to Sesh Cast. My name is GLDLX. This is Sesh Cast, a cannabis podcast for cannabis sessions. And today is the last episode that you will hear from this weird little 3-day pre-record weed bender that I'm on. If you're new to this podcast, excuse me, for me, what's about 3 hours ago, for you, 2 weeks ago, I released the first episode of 3 episodes that I recorded back to back to back, just because I'm sending my mic away. My mic is getting fixed, and I needed to pre-record some episodes because they said it could take a couple weeks for me to get my mic back, which I'm going to move really quickly, so this next second is going to get cut out. If you maybe I'll listen back to that. Maybe if it doesn't sound too awful, I won't do it. But anyway, so I have to get my mic fixed. It's going to take 3 weeks or so for it to get fixed and returned to me. So I needed to pre-record some episodes. That's what I'm doing, and I've done the last 2 weeks. Oh, excuse me already. And this is the last one I have to do, and I just realized my timer didn't start. Lol. Oh well. Hopefully I get this episode at a good amount of time, because I ran out of upload time last week. Maybe I'll talk about that. I don't know. Oh my. Hello, friends. I'm so high. That's what I was getting to in that big long ramble. This is a podcast that I pick a thing to talk about while I smoke a bowl, and then I turn on the mic and smoke a bowl and talk about that thing. So this is the 3rd episode I've done. This is going to be bowl number 4. All of these bowls were massive because they contained the coagulated contents of my Hemper glass blunt that did not work out well for me. You can listen back. That was 2 episodes ago that catastrophe happened. It was the social media episode, so feel free to go back and listen to that. Episode 9, I do believe. But I've smoked a lot of weed, well over a gram now, and I have a lot more to smoke. This bowl is an actual, There's at least 2 bowls of weed stuffed into this one little bowl, with a large mountain on top of little kinetic sand that I'm going to inhale into my lungs now. Cheers. There's no way that I'm going to smoke all this in one episode. There's no way. I'm going to try really hard. There's just no way. So yeah, this is Sesh Cast. Welcome, friends. Thanks for hanging out. If this is your first time, you picked an interesting one. But these last 2 weeks, for you, for me, these last 2 hours, I've talked about some kind of heavy topics, social media and freaking racism. Pulled that one out, and so both of those things were kind of heavy, and so today, very much pun intended, I wanted to talk about something a little lighter. What's the difference between a hippo and a zippo? One's a hippo and one's a little lighter. Sorry. Yeah, I know. That's where I am. I'm going to talk about lighters, like Bic lighters today. At least that's the topic that we're going to start on. Because I really did just want to lighten the mood a little bit. And I have a really special connection with Bic lighters, and I wanted to talk about that. So yeah, I today am smoking on the last third half chunk bunch of this salad of Gorilla Glue number 4, C4, and Crystal Cup. I need to plug my computer back in. I just noticed that. So hopefully that didn't create any blips in the audio. Apologies if it did. But I need to smoke all this, and um, yeah, man. We're gonna talk about lighters. I hope your day is going great. I hope that everything's good for you. Hope whatever you're doing is going well. And I hope that you're smoking along on something, and I hope that it's delicious. Cheers. So, lighters. Today we're talking about lighters, which is a weird thing to talk about, I know. But thus the nature of Sesh Cast. So I went to college. My freshman year of college, I pledged a fraternity. And when I was a pledge, if you don't know much about Greek life, or you don't know anything about pledging or anything like that, or all you know is what you see in the movies or on the TV or whatever, let me tell you that a lot of that stuff, like, there's just as much negative propaganda about fraternities in a way as there is about weed. Fraternities can be really great things. My fraternity experience was awesome. But either way, when you pledge, you end up in some goofy scenarios. Sorry if you hear a lot of rustling and like back noise or anything. I'm just moving around in my chair. And one of the things when I pledged was that one of the older guys, like early on, gave me this little green Bic lighter, and said, "Take this and keep it in your pocket with you everywhere you go, all of the time. Period." And I said, "Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Whatever." I don't know. Not actually. But I took the lighter, I threw it in my pocket, and I carried it everywhere with me every day. And that, like, that day he told me, he's like, you never know who you're going to meet that needs a lighter, like you never know who you're going to bump into, whose story you're going to meet, like whose day you're going to make just because somebody's going to ask you for a quick light. And like, it's just such a convenient thing to have. And it just connects you with so many people. And you never know when you're going to need it. And so I started carrying one with me every day. But at the end of pledging, I asked him, I was like, do you want this lighter back? Like, pledging's over. And he was like, "Oh no, like the real reason that I wanted you to carry that around is because I smoke and I always forget my lighter. And I just wanted to make sure somebody always had one anytime that I needed one. So I made you carry one for me." And I, that's just a quick little anecdote. I don't think that it really matters, but I guess what I learned is that it really is kind of crazy, like how many people in a day will ask you, or how many people, however, like, "Hey man, do you have a light? Like, do you have a lighter? Can I borrow that real quick?" Like, it's just such a convenient thing to have. And so I've always had one with me every day since then. And I've met a lot of cool people, and I've helped a lot of people out. It's kind of crazy. It's I guess it's just like an always be prepared kind of thing. But it's just little things like that like it brings you together with people. Like people have stopped me in the drive-thru at McDonald's, like kind of just walked up to my car and been like, like, "Hey, do you have a light?" or whatever. And like, it's raining and they're on their way somewhere on foot, and like, it's just crazy what that can mean to somebody, and how easily a little thing like hitting somebody or like giving somebody a lighter, or having a lighter for somebody, it's crazy how much that can change someone's day, I guess, is what I'm going for. I'm gonna level with you right now. I'm so high. Like, I'm very, very high. We are around the 10-minute mark here, which means I am about a fourth of the way in. And I've got a lot left to smoke, so I don't know where we're gonna go today. But we're going somewhere. So thanks for coming along on this little podcast adventure. Cheers. Oh my god. Ugh. First major coughing fit of the day right there. Oh boy. that was rough. You take that big drag and you just realize like like you hear that little crack or something, and it's like, oh no. My friends and I, we used to call it the oh shit hit. Was that hit like you you were taking a hit and like you inhale, you exhale, and as soon as you exhale, you're like, oh shit, I'm high. It's the oh shit hit, and that was the one. It's still rolling strong, so I'm gonna hit it again. Cheers. Oh my god. Boy. This is the most interesting podcast you ever listened to, and you know it. You know that right now you haven't stopped listening. You're just thinking to yourself, man, I can't believe this guy really put a whole podcast of him just coughing up. I can't believe that. That's so dumb. Why would he do that? But you're still here. You're still listening. And that's crazy. Wow. So, like, I guess the overarching topic, overall topic of this podcast wasn't ever really just supposed to be about Bic lighters. And maybe it was going to go that way. Maybe on a different day it would have. But, like, it's that little act of kindness, that little bit of, like, being prepared to just help somebody out. It's something that I kind of, like, carry some pride in, you know? And that's why I always have a lighter on me. Literally always. And it's always a Bic lighter. And it's typically one that is sort of, like, easily identified in a crowd. It's either, like, a weird color or is one of the, like, design ones. Or is... I don't know. I used to use the mini Bic lighters all the time. I, like, really dug those. But the mini Bics run out really fast, and they're not that much cheaper than the big Bics, so I started buying the big Bics as opposed to the mini Bics. And I like the mini ones, though, because they fit better in my hand. Like, I just preferred them. I have little hands. But, so we actually talked about Bic lighters there for a second, but I always carry them around. I don't know, I just kind of it makes me feel good. It's one of those things that, like, you do, and part of the reason you do it is because it makes you feel good. And I think that things like that get a bad name, but at the end of the day, you're still doing those things, and that's still good. And this little bowl is, like, rolling hard, so I want to take another hit. I've stuffed it out twice, mind you. So, cheers. It's the never-ending cherry, and I don't just, like, want to kill it, but I've got to draw the line. I have things to talk about. Like, you know, people say that some people give to charity for the wrong reasons. like, oh, you're just like, yeah, they only give to that charity because it makes them feel good, or like it makes them look good or something like that. And like, people say that that's the wrong reason to give to a charity, but at the end of the day, those people are still giving to charity. Um, you're still just being a good person. And I think that's kind of important, and something that I'm not sure we give enough credit to in this day and age. That like sometimes the action really does mean more than the reason. I know it's like the whole, oh, it's the thought that counts. It's always the thought that counts. Like, and I get that, and that's true. And like, action without intention or action without reason, yes, maybe sort of empty, or like emotionally empty or something. I don't know, but like, it just sometimes it doesn't matter why you did something good. It just matters that you did something good. And so if you do something because it makes you feel good, I don't think that that makes you inherently bad. Like, I think everybody has different reasons to give back, and I don't think that it matters so much the reason, as long as you're doing it. If that reason is to benefit you in some way, then that's great. If that reason is to benefit you at the cost of others, then I don't think that's great. You can get into all of that in your own. I'm not talking every case, but like, if you're doing something just because it makes you feel good, like if it makes you feel good to be nice, do it. Which I guess, when you say it, that's sort of that situation. Like, well, when you say it that way, like, if it makes you feel good to be nice, you should be nice. It's true. Here it is. Like, I switched my earbud, because the headphone jack on my, all right. If you're new here, if you haven't heard this story yet, my microphone is messed up. Headphone jack is busted. There's this weird, high-pitched ringing in the left channel. Basically, it's blown out. It's evident in the right channel, but not as bad. So I only, like, I couldn't use my good studio headphones in my with my microphone anymore, and I had to switch to using earbuds, so I only could use one channel, and it's the right channel, but I just had to switch it from my right side to my left side because my right ear is getting sore from wearing one earbud now for 4 hours. And it's got me so disoriented. Like, I don't, straight up, it's been a long time since I've been so high that I could like really tell the difference between the right side of my voice and the left side of my voice, and I'm hearing it all in my left ear. And what's weird is that my right ear is actually like partially deaf. I blew it out with a firecracker, actually. I was throwing firecrackers and one went off too close to my ear, and I just don't hear very well in my right side. My left side hears much better. So it's weird to like have this, like, I don't know, it's weird to have all of the volume go from my right ear to my left ear. It's got me very, very disoriented and very distracted. So I may have to switch back, because this is a lot. It's overwhelming. It's hard to talk about big lighters when I'm confused about, how high I am. And maybe that's really what this episode is. Maybe this is the reward for anyone who's come along. I guess this maybe isn't the most entertaining thing for new people, but if you've listened to this podcast for a couple episodes, and you're interested to see what I sound like after I smoke like a gram, maybe because I added some extra in, after, like, okay, so I had to grind up a little bit more to fill up my glass blunt the whole way. And so when I then emptied the glass blunt and reground it all, there was still leftover weed from the second grind, because that time I ground too much. So then I just cleared my grinder into this last bowl. So there's a little more than there originally was. So it's probably maybe 1.5 grams at this point, that I've smoked, because I smoked a fourth bowl beforehand, and that joint was about 1 gram. So like, or that blunt. So I'm very high. I would comfortably say I've smoked about 1.5 grams, or I will have smoked about 1.5 grams at the end of this. And so maybe that's just what this episode is. Maybe it's just an experiment to see, like how I sound. I smoke lots of weed. But another perfect example that there is really no harm to cannabis, and I do fancy myself a little bit of an activist. And I just I don't like that people think weed is bad, because it's not. There's not really much, if any, negative aspects to smoking weed. You can really dig for some, and it's not for everybody. I'm not trying to say it's for everybody, you know? I think everybody should kind of have that experience or try it, or I would like everybody to, but at the end of the day, like, cannabis affects everybody differently. If it's not your bag, it's not your bag, and that's okay. It's really not a bad thing at all. And this whole idea that smoking weed is bad for you, or can be bad for you, or can kill you, like, it's just not. It's not something that I love that exists. Like, I disagree with it, but not only do I disagree with it, it bums me out that it's a mentality that people have. And that's the best way that I can say that. I don't really know any other way to say that. But yeah, like, weed is a good thing, and it's not harmful. And I don't know if there are enough examples of people getting super, super, super high and kind of just having a dialogue about that. And that's something I'd like to do. And maybe this is just a practice for that. Like, I think that sort of a dream that I have, something that would be really cool to do, would be to get in a room, or maybe not in a room, maybe to, like, I think it'd be cool in a live stream fashion. You know what? I'm gonna talk about this idea. I like this idea. I'm gonna ride with this, and maybe there's somebody out there that can make this happen. And you know what? Just credit this idea to me, or invite me. I'd love to be a part of it if you do it. But I'm gonna take a hit of this, and then I'll tell you more. So, cheers, friends. Oh man, I've had this kind of like nasty cough for a little while, and I'm wondering if I'm like, I thought that I needed to lay off of smoking for a little while for it to go away, and I just kind of felt it break up in my chest, and I'm wondering if I've just smoked my cough into submission. As I cough a little more. So, this idea, right? Like, I think that it would be cool to do a live stream. And a live stream that is specifically designed for people who are biased against, don't like, have no idea about, want to learn more about all things about weed. And it would just be, it's basically a Reddit AMA. Like a Reddit AMA live stream type situation where I would just sit down and just like get higher and higher and higher and higher. And I think flower would be ideal. I think that's what people are familiar with. I think something like a pipe to sort of like show the effect. I don't know. And just kind of answer questions and like talk very openly about what that's like. There's definitely a future podcast coming for me at some point about what it's like to be high. I don't really want to go into that right now. I've like gotten to it a couple of other times, and it's just this idea that I've had that I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I've been wanting to like really do an episode about, because I think that it's a cool idea for people who have no idea. And I think that most of the people who listen to my podcast definitely smoke weed or smoke weed often or have smoked weed. But I know that I have a couple of listeners who don't often or never have. And so I think that it would be interesting to try to explain what it's like to be high. But I know that there are people out there who have questions, and there are people out there who have biases. And I wish that I could just have a conversation with those people and try to, I guess, change their opinions in a way. But just like, I want to show people what it's really like. And that's another like live stream podcasty idea that I'd be interested in. It's just like, I feel like the reason that people have so many bad things to say about weed is not because weed is bad, but it's because they just don't understand it. They haven't really seen enough. I don't know. I don't really know. That's what I mean. I want to hear those questions, and I want to be able to answer those questions or talk about those questions. And here I am trying to ask myself those questions and talk to myself about those answers after smoking a lot of weed and being really, really, really high. Oh my gosh. And I keep looking at the clock in this bowl, and it's not getting any smaller, and the clock continues to tick, and I just have to take another hit. So, cheers. And so maybe there's something more to that. Like maybe there's something more to just like the thought of there are people out there with questions, and we need to answer those questions. And maybe you can connect that to my whole little Bic lighter thing, is that like I'm a pretty open stoner if you talk to me about it. It's not like, I don't know. We live in a world where you can both have things like this podcast that are entirely based around cannabis. You can have, that's a thing that exists. There's an industry. You can have these things, but we live in a world where there's still plenty of people with whom you just can't really discuss the fact that you smoke weed. And that's kind of weird. But at the end of the day, like, I know that there's a time and a place to talk about how much weed you smoke. And it's, don't come at me like I'm not actually a cannabis activist. There's a time and place to talk about how much alcohol you drink. There's a time and place to talk about how much you work out. There's a time and place to everything. And you know that there are people who you say, oh, they only talk about CrossFit, or they only talk about this or that or the other thing, and it annoys you. And I'm not that annoying guy about weed, but what I'm saying is that I've always got this lighter on me, which, my use is for weed. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't really smoke any tobacco, honestly, as my roommate's gigantic hookah sits across the studio from me. But I don't really smoke a lot of tobacco. I smoke a lot of weed. But I always have this lighter, and people always ask me why I have the lighter, and often I say, because I want to be able to offer it to anybody who wants it, or offer it to anybody who might need it. Like, if somebody asks me, hey, like, do you have a lighter? Do you have a light? Like, I want to be able to say yes to that question and, have a chat with that person or whatever. And then sometimes people are like, do you smoke? And I'm like, not cigarettes. And it just kind of turns into a conversation piece. And the best way to show people that weed is a normal thing and weed is an okay thing is just to be an okay and normal person. Don't be a loser. Like, and I don't mean like loser in the way that jerks say it to you in high school. I mean loser in the like, don't be mean. Don't be a jerk. It's not cool. Nobody likes it. Nobody's gonna enjoy it. Just don't do it. And if you're not that way about weed, but people know you smoke a lot of weed, they're gonna think much better about weed, not or just as well as they're gonna think about you. I know that dropped off. I'm sorry. I'm so high. I'm so high. And I'm trying to record a podcast, and I'm trying to record my third podcast in a row. And you just run out of words at a certain point. You really, really do. You run out of words and you run out of opinions. So I'll take another hit, and we'll see where that little mini adventure leads us to. Cheers, friends. I would really love to like incite the hate of the internet here for a minute, and say that I am really very genuinely interested in what people think of this podcast, specifically this episode. Obviously, it's kind of weird and out there. This one is. This is really just more of like a free form thing, and sometimes I have a topic that I can talk about forever, and sometimes I have a topic that like I have one little point to get across, which is carry a lighter and don't be a jerk and be nice to people and help them when you can. But like sometimes, I sit down to record an episode and I just dig and dig and dig, and I like don't have anything to talk about. And I've talked about before, like I have this list of ideas and this list of topics to go over, and I want to go over and talk about all of these topics at some point, and hopefully someday in my little podcast career I will. But at the same time, like sometimes you sit down and you look at that list and you're like, I'm not really feeling talking about any of these right now, and I would rather talk about something that I'm feeling like talking about than forcing myself to talk about something. And so sometimes, I've had 2 episodes today. Yes, well, time. You run and you run to catch up with the sun, but it's sinking. I lost my train of thought, honestly. I lost my train of thought. I'm super high. That's the way that happens. I guess I was talking about whether or not you like this episode, and it's really kind of out there. That's where it was. Sometimes you just sit down, and I've had 2. Yep, we're back. I had 2 episodes today that I was really very into. And here I am trying to record a 3rd episode in a row, and like, it's not that there aren't other things I could talk about. It's just that like, my brain is kind of fried, and so sometimes I just need to let my mind ramble and let my words out and just kind of talk. And like, you run out of words, but you still have thoughts to get out there, and that's kind of what this podcast is, So I'm curious to see what people think of this as well. And so I'm not really the kind to like, go follow me here and like me here, and I try and give out all of those things in case following me is something that you're interested in doing. And I'd appreciate it if you did, if that's something you want to, but like, I don't need your, I don't want your like empty, like he just forced me to click a button. I don't know. It's like, I feel like it gets to a point of begging, and there's no point in begging. I would rather have you follow along if you're interested. And then if you're not interested and don't care, then that's okay with me. Because sometimes, like, I get it. Sometimes you just want to listen to a podcast. You don't want to follow all of the social medias and see all the pictures and get all the other things. Like, sometimes it's just a podcast. And if this is just a podcast for you, then that's great. And thank you for being here. And whatever you do is plenty for me. And that's awesome. But let me say, did you let me say? That wasn't it. Whatever. I would always love to hear what people think. Because this is kind of a new idea, and it's just sort of a thing that I'm going with. And I wanted to see if it would work. And I'm enjoying it, and there's a snag here and a snag there, and really just what I'm curious about is what people think. So feel free to let me know wherever that is. I'm like all over the place. But if you're looking for like direct ways to contact me, like Instagram is always super easy. That's just at Sesh Cast, or through the website. I think there's a contact button on the website. If you want to, that is in my Instagram description. It's also seshcast.libsyn, Libsyn. Dumb. That's just like a free thing that I get because I upload on Libsyn and it's cool because then I don't have to pay for a website. Because poor. But I like I I'm just curious to know what people's opinion of this is. And let me know, and because I'm curious, and if the internet hates it, then maybe the internet hates it, and maybe I just kind of move on from this idea. But I would like to know if people dig it because I dig it, and I think it's a cool. I think it's a cool. I think I am a high. I am at least 4 increments of high. I am stone. So let me become stoneder. Cheers. That was rough. There was no joke there. So, in wrap up conclusion, perhaps, um, lighters, they're convenient and they light weed real good. And I like them for that. So thank you, Big Lighters, for lighting my weed. But also thank you for all of the chances you have given me to help somebody else out. Thank you for all of the chances that I have had to say, yeah, man, I got you. Like, it's just cool. I go to a lot of concerts for my radio job, like a lot of concerts. And that's awesome. And you meet so many people at concerts. Sometimes the people you meet are super famous. Sometimes the people you meet are super drunk and shirtless and hairy. But, you meet tons of people, and sometimes those people need a lighter, and they are always very appreciative when you can be that person. And sometimes it gets you cool stuff. Sometimes I have straight up in concerts had people come up to me and ask if I have a lighter, and then pull out a joint and light that joint, and then ask me if I want some when they hand my lighter back. Like, that's cool. Yes, please. Thanks. There's just a lot that, like, having a little thing on you that is helpful, can bring you. Pocket knives are the same way. A lot of people carry pocket knives for the same reason I carry a lighter. Spoiler alert, I too carry a pocket knife. I'm low-key a bit of a cargo pants junkie, and I don't know. I like to be that guy. I like to be prepared. I'm weird, but it's just cool to be able to help people, and you meet a lot of cool people who are always very appreciative of your help. That word sounds weirder and weirder the more times you say it. Appreciative. It's also because I have a terrible accent, but so there's so many people out there who will really appreciate you being able to help them out, and sometimes that leads you to some cool places. You get to some cool stuff and some really cool stories and some really cool things. I don't know. And it carries. Like, it really does. I think a lot of girls who wear big purses or like carry a lot of stuff in their bags with them are always super happy to help other girls out, and I think that's really cool. Like, I just think it's cool when people can help other people and are happy about it and are prepared to help other people. I think that's a very special thing. And I think it's a special thing that there's not enough of in this world. Like, just be prepared to help other people in the little ways that you can be. Because then it would make you more willing to help people, hopefully. Because that's what we all want, I think. Like, if we could all just be a little more helpful, that would be swell. Who knows if it would ever happen, but I don't know. I'm back on that whole everybody love everybody thing, man, from a whole bunch of episodes ago, but you smoke a ton of weed, you just become that stoner. You really do. Weed will really convince you that everybody needs to love everybody more. I swear to God. I'm gonna do a weed. It's time for me to do one weed. So hold on just a second there. Cheers. I honestly, like, I don't think I'm going to be able to smoke all the weed in this bowl by the time this episode is out, because it is almost out. But, I'm going to smoke it afterwards, just for the honor of the thing. If I had more time to do an episode and to upload an episode, I'd smoke all of it, but I don't. But maybe someday. So this has been a weird episode. Thanks for coming along. And, thanks for sticking around. I appreciate it. If this whole thing was a disaster and you hated it, try another one, please. Do a different episode. Just give me one more shot. If this was your first impression and you hated it, give me one more, please. Because this one was kind of weird, and I listened back to all of my episodes, and I'm interested and excited to listen back to this one and see how it sounds. So yeah, I don't know. Just give me another chance, just in case this one is a little too weird. But whatever, man. That's the way the cookie crumbles. My name is Bruce Nolan, Eyewitness News. I'm gonna hit this one more time, and then I'm gonna get out of here. So, cheers. Oh gosh. No. My name is GLDLX. This has been Sesh Cast. Thank you so much for listening.